Hashem created the world. What for? What for? For what purpose? For what purpose? What did Hashem create the world for? Okay? It's very, very important. For what purpose? Anybody know?
I feel like to share it.
To bestow goodness. How do you know that?
Because we say that God is goodness. He's only good.
Okay.
So, he was looking for a way to use that goodness to bestow it on something.
So, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to challenge you because that is to say that somehow God was lacking before He created the world. And only through the creation of the world He could fulfill this lack of bestowing goodness. Because He had all this goodness to give and nobody to give it to. So, He just, He was out of luck until He figured out He could create a world and bestow goodness on it. So I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll agree with the statement that God created the world in order to bestow goodness. The question is, how do we know that? And I don't mean just because it says so in the book, famously stated in Mesilas Yesharim by the Ramchal, and many others. He's not the only one. He wasn't the first guy to roll along and say that. It's in the Shla as well. And it really emanates from all the deeper Sfarim. But here's the deal. As we have no idea before the world was created why God decided to do it. But once the world was created, we have no choice other than to conclude and to understand that it was done for our benefit. Because once we acknowledge that there's an existence of an infinite being who can take for himself nothing and can only share of his own infinity unto others, and we are the others, by force, the only relationship that can exist between a finite being and an infinite being is that the infinite is bestowing upon the finite. That's the way things are flowing. There really isn't any other way. Because God's infinite. What can He take? What can we give Him? And He says it many times. What could you possibly give me? So, why He decided to do it, we can't possibly know. It's totally beyond us. But now that it's done, here we are. So, the only conclusion is the purpose of this part of the equation, it's done. Why? Well, I know that why I'm here is because God wants to give me something incredible. Because He's got it all, and I need it all. And that's the relationship. So Hashem says, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. And it's a deep topic that I don't want to spend the whole time on. But He says here's a Torah, 613 mitzvahs. Here's how you get it. Okay? And when you do this, you're bringing the world to a state of perfection in which all of us will have a great time. We're all going to be very, very happy. It's going to be good for you because that's what I want. Here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. You're going to ask me, why couldn't God just do it automatically? And I'll answer you, right? That's a good question. I'll answer you because something given is not valued as something earned. Meaning, if God means to bestow the ultimate pleasure, and that's the language that's used, hatanug ha'amiti, the ultimate pleasure. If God means to bestow the ultimate pleasure, and He says, here, it automatically loses value. Because something given is not valued as something earned. When a person puts his own effort into something and receives it in return, that item becomes more beloved to them. So the pleasure automatically has to be earned in order to be enjoyed to the highest level. Then you ask me, yeah, but that's only because God created man's nature that way. But if God hadn't created man's nature that way, then He could have enjoyed it without being given it. And then you're going to get into the next. I don't know if you want me to go there or not. Is anyone thinking that? Does anyone want me to go there? Okay, you want me to go there? Okay, here's why. Because since God is the source of everything, and as Dr. Deutsch told us, so that source, that's the source of all good. All the goodness is coming from there. The closer you get to that source, what I'm going to tell you is so deep that if you get it, it was worth coming, okay? The closer you get to that source, the more goodness and pleasure and enjoyment you experience, because those two are essentially synonymous. The experience of God Himself is that good, is that pleasure. So the closer you get, the more. Now, what does it mean close? When we're talking about a being that has no corporeality and takes up no space, so to speak, you can't get closer in a physical sense. The only way you get closer is in what we call, when we talk about closeness, and it's nice that it works out in English this way as well, it's not a coincidence, we mean likeness. We mean likeness. So for example, when I say, what number is closer to 1? 2 or 3? Okay? So, right? What's the answer? 2. 2 is closer to 1 than 3 is. Because it's only removed by a factor of 1. But I'm not a mathematician. But what do you mean close? These are numbers are concepts. I could draw it I could draw a number line, and then I could make it physical, but essentially numbers are conceptual. But when we mean closeness, we mean likeness. When we talk about something non-corporeal, closeness is likeness. So closeness to God means likeness to God. And since God is only, by essence, a giver, in order to be like God, you have to be a giver. And the more you are a taker, the less like God you are. So therefore, it is required of us, in order to reach that state of likeness to God in which we can feel the ultimate pleasure, is we have to be acting, we have to be building, we have to be working, we have to be giving. We cannot just be like, lay it on me, God, I'm ready, right? That automatically pulls you away, that automatically reduces the closeness, it reduces the pleasure intrinsically. So the intrinsic pleasure is the likeness to God, is the closeness to God, which is by emulating God, by being God-like. And God says, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it.